Okay. So, so today we are beginning the teachings of one of the important Upanishads. This is usually in the order of Upanishads. There is a 10 Upanishads generally, which everyone of us strive to study in order to get that proper understanding of Vedanta, in order to really understanding the teachings of Vedanta. So as it is said, Vedanto Nama, Upanishad Pramana. What is the source of knowledge? What is the source of correct knowledge for the teachings of Vedanta? The end of Vedas is Upanishads. So Upanishads is the main source. If we understand the Upanishad, if we imbibe the Upanishads, then they say the whole purpose of life is served. Upanishads is the essence from all the teachings of Gita. For many of people who are not able to really dwell in the Upanishads, understand the Upanishads, then the Gita was summarized. Gita summarized the Upanishad and put it in a way, because when we understand Upanishads, when a student comes to Upanishad, he should not be asking the question, what do I get out of it in my practical life? So if we have that kind of question, still then we should go back to Gita. So the Upanishads are teachings where we have come to the realization of wanting some higher freedom, deeper freedom, eternal freedom. Then we come to embrace the Upanishad. But of course, we also need to study other texts, but Upanishad is the source. Vedanto Nama Upanishad Pramana. The essence of all the Vedas in their crux, the main aspect of that thing, then they depend on Upanishads. So this is the heart of Indian teachings. All the Indian darshanas, the Saddarshanas, are based on this Upanishad teachings. And then for those who, after study of Upanishads, so if, as I mentioned, like those who are looking for practical aspect of teachings of Upanishads, then they embrace things such as, like they say, okay, how do I put it in practice? How do I do sadhana? Then we take Gita, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and all these other darshanas that have come based on the essence of Upanishads teachings. Because we want to apply, we want to do something, we want to apply something. Just that knowledge enough alone is not liberating us. Then we take to practices. There Gita and Patanjali Yoga Sutras and all that are helpful tools. But then we still have doubts, we still understand, we still have intellectual inability to comprehend. Because the real teachings of Upanishads was given as apaurushiya to the rishis, meaning there was no source of like a text-based teaching, or not even someone like how now I'm talking about it. It was not even like that for the rishis. It came without the medium of anyone. It came directly to them by, we can say, by the supreme consciousness, by God, or whatever we want to call it. So that teachings came completely, directly. So that is where, many times people can get bogged down by studying the Upanishads or the other Vedanta teachings, and we were intellectually trying to figure it all out. So sometimes it is beyond the intellect. Even that Anumana Pramana, which say, is limited. But of course, we use that intellect, we use that medium of the intellect to get to that. But the idea in really getting that teaching is that we have to go beyond that intellect. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. The speech cannot go to that truth. The mind cannot grapple that truth. It is beyond that. So that is the real teachings of Upanishads. So when we can't grasp that and we are still stuck, we have learned the Vedas, we have people who have mastered the Vedas, they have not intuitively grasped that, then Vedavyasa said, let us come up with another concept, another way of style of teaching called Brahma Sutra. So this is the Prasthana Trayi, the teachings directly from Upanishad, the Bhagavad Gita, the Smriti, and the Brahma Sutra. So these are all the ways, and all of them are going to that one essential understanding of the teachings of Upanishads. Okay, so in learning the Upanishads also, there are some more subtleties which I will mention in the next few classes, especially for those of you who will want to attend every class. There are some ways how we can really get the teachings in a proper way. How we listen, how we study, how we put our mind and how we meditate on that, and how we take those shlokas. All that is part and parcel of that whole teaching. So these are the points sometimes we miss when we just try to listen to it through YouTube or through, just reading a books and all that. See, there are many people who were transformed, like Westerners and all that, right from, Max Miller and a lot of famous Thoreau and all. They were all deeply touched, moved by the teachings of Indian Upanishads and all that. But yet what happens is they didn't have a guru who taught them. They didn't have the tradition of gurus, rather. The sampradaya, through which we usually follow the teachings. And when it comes in that form, that transmission happens, it goes beyond verbal. The words are then just a medium. So the real teachings, 80% of the teachings is live teaching. So this is why, generally we should try to be in that face-to-face with the teacher in that. So, of course, many people also say, you should, when you attend these classes, you should put on the videos and all that. Part of it is because that kind of way where you sit in front of the teacher, the Upanishad, Upa is near, Ni is Nishtha, with that certainty, decisiveness. And Shad, Sad. Sad is that going beyond, Gati, or destroying, loosening that bonds of ignorance. So you approach that teacher, sit near the teacher, and there the transmission of knowledge happens. So this is especially for Upanishad. We should try to attend live and be face to face with the teachers whenever possible. So this is as much as possible. Of course, those who cannot, it's fine. So now the other point here is this, that there are a couple of other things. Now, generally, as many of you know, in many of the classes, I use some mantras, Shanti mantras. Most common Shanti mantra is that Sahana Bhavatu, which we use. And then there are other Shanti mantras also. Some of us use like in Gita class, we use a Bhadram Karne. So there are different Shanti mantras. So each Upanishad, each text of Upanishads has one Shanti mantra. And it so happens that for this Upanishad, the Shanti mantra is Sahana Bhavatu. So that is an easy thing. Many of you already know that. So this Kathopanishad comes from Krishna Yajurveda. This is one of the Vedas. As we all know, there are 4 Vedas, and this is one of the Vedas. And so the teachings of Upanishads comes after the yajna and all those kind of karma kanda, generally we say. Karma kanda is generally, many of us can take it like, all this, what the priests are engaged in, especially the Brahmins and all, those are generally the karma kanda prakriyas. So there what is happening, it is ritualistic portions. And there it is not knowledge-based. There it is rituals, activities. People do certain things and you get certain rewards for that. The rewards, we will discuss it, because this is the best text to talk about. What is the rewards you get from that rituals and what is the rewards you get from knowledge. So this classification happens when we transition to Upanishads. We are moving away from the rituals towards that seeking of that final Purushartha, the 4th Purushartha, the Moksha Purushartha. So we are no longer caught up in the Dharma, Adharma. In fact, one of the mantra in this Upanishad, where the question of Nachiketa is this: Anyatra dharma, anyatha dharma. What is that which is beyond dharma and adharma? So that is a very clear indication we are going beyond this part, beyond this karma kanda part, ritualistic part. So this is just an introduction. So the Kathopanishad, as some of you might have seen that sign that that one of our students made, is that the picture of a dialogue between the Lord of Death and a young seeker. This is a it is given in a form of what is called as Akyayika, a story. So most Upanishads are very direct. The student has already approached the teacher and is already asking questions. So there is no, there is no like a fun part, entertainment part involved. It's like everything already happens. But Kathopanishad is in one way good, like those of us who want stories, who want something like that, it also gives us that. So there is, the storyline is also there, but the story here is very metaphorical. There is a deeper essence of each of the story on who that student really is and who that teacher really is and what is the dialogue means for them. So all that is very symbolic here. Now comes another part of this thing is that, see, as I was mentioning, this name Katha is generally, Upanishads and all, and nobody claims like I wrote this or I wrote that, there's no copyright, there's no, so you see, like, of course, now what has happened is many publishers have made different writings on that and they've copyrighted many work. But really, all these Upanishads and all that, just teach those people to receive that teachings directly from the source, directly from God or from the divine. There was no sense of independent identity there. That bhavana, kartha bhavana, kartahamiti manyate, as Bhagavad Gita says, that bhavana is not there at all for a real rishi. So many times what happens, then they figure out, oh, maybe this rishi or that rishi, and then they name it like that, Or sometimes there is not even that name in some places, like things like Taitriya, say a bird or something, or Mandukya, Mundaka, all are given names. But here there is a name which we have called Katha. His name is Katha. Rishi Katha. But this again, there is not much thing on who was he, what is he, and all that. It's just so his name, the Rishi's name was Katha, so it's called Kathopanishad. Katha Upanishad, then the Sandhi happens, and we call it in Sanskrit Kathopanishad. And there's also Kathopanishad, that is also another name for that. So now there is a lot of other discussion that Shankaracharya starts on this. The main bhashya that I will be using is Shankaracharya because he is the one who made all these Upanishads popular, and he's even till today the main source of reference. Even if other people have come up with their own version, they still use him as the main source. And also I belong to the Shankaracharya Parampara, so I'll be mainly using that. And the main thing here is that he talks about what is called as Anubandha Chatushtaya, which I will go in another class on the different aspects of the things. So, like every book, it has a purpose. It has like like if you look at any book you pick up in the bookstore, they will say whom it is for, or like what is the ideal target group. They are aiming for the Vishaya. And then the prayojana, what is the purpose of that? What do you get out of reading that book? What does it serve? So all that will also come in the bhashya, the Shankaracharya's bhashya. He will cover all that aspect. Okay. So now, since I've already given this introduction, now we will start the thing, and I will still go with mostly the introduction today. I will just give an overall idea of the story, but even before to start that story, because that story itself starts with that first shloka. So now I will formally start with that Shanti mantra for this. Those of you who know, you should try to join me. If you want to be in mute, that's okay, but you can wherever you are, you should try to join me with this Shanti Mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu
Navavatu
Sahana Bhunatu
Sahanavunatu
Saha Viryam
Yasya Viryam
Bhavavai
Bhavavahe
Tejasvinavadhitamastuma
Tejasvinavadhitamastu
Ma
Ma
Vidvijavahe
Vidvishavahe
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti.
So we are engaging in this where we are saying we will study this together. We hope that each of us will have good health, um, good mental state, and good environment and good energy, physically, mentally, to engage in this study. And also that, any differences, any doubts, any negativity we feel towards each other, may that not take over us in our shared purpose of this. So this is what we are saying with every teaching, because it's common. As long as we have the mind will always have some kind of a negative thing that it brings in. So we have to be aware of that, and we should not allow that to sway us away from the main purpose to which we have gathered. So that is the purpose of this Shanti Mantra. Okay. So now, as I said, this Kathopanishad starts with is mainly a dialogue between the teacher who is the Lord of Death, meaning his role is to take every soul that has died to a certain place, out of that body to the certain place. That is generally what we call as Yama, Yamaraja, or Dharmaraja also he is called Dharmaraja, because he will evaluate how much good you have done, how much bad you have done. I think there are all versions of this in everything. I think Christianity is, Saint Patrick or someone. So every religion has that version. There's a Greek god, in the Greek mythology. So everyone has. So here it is Yamaraja. He does that. The good and the bad. It's called Dharmaraja. He will ascertain how much good you have done and how much negativity you have done. And he doesn't have any personal biases. He will appropriately give you what is due to you. So that is the role. Now, the student here. So before we come to know about the student, there is a setting. What is the setting here is that there is a yajna going on. Yajna means there is some big offering, some ritual going on. As I mentioned, see, the karma kanda is Indian priests and all that. They have the knowledge of Vedas, the previous aspects of Vedas. So this is where, the Indian priests, we say, mostly Brahmanas, right? They master this understanding of all the Vedas, the chanting of Veda, the reciting of the Veda, and on behalf of you, they do the rituals. Like you are called the Yajamana, meaning you are the one to whom that merit of that ritual will go. But because you don't know the mantras, you don't know the process and all that, they will do it for you. And you offer them something, you give them something. Mostly material, something that their material needs you fulfill. And they will give that. So this is a very clear trade between the priest and the one who wants to do this. So the first mantra puts that setting. What is the setting? Is that it is mentioned in that shloka of the first one. I will not go with all the shlokas like here. I'll go in detail in another class. But I'm just summarizing here. But the first line, the first word, it says, Om Ushan Havai Vajashravasaha Sarva Vedasam Dadhav Tasyaha Nachiketa Nama Putra Asa. Desiring to get some benefit. So it is very clear that ritual he is doing has a desire. There is something that he aspires, something that is wishing, and not like something like just like may it be for the good of all, or may I get liberation. It's not even like that. Something very tangible he has in mind. In order to do that, he has that setting is that people have accumulated, everybody has come. And this ritual is a very unique ritual. Maybe because he realizes his life has come to an end or something. He is doing that highest ritual. What is that highest ritual? It is called as Vishwajit Yagya, meaning that the person has to give everything that he has in order to gain the world, a universe, I mean like a higher kind of universe. He has to give everything he owns, materially and personal possession, he has to give away. Now, if you think of it why would anybody give anything away? See, for example, even if you go to some store, and you're willing to give some 100 rupees for something, you very clearly are willing to part that 100 rupees in order to get something, right? Or if you have some house, you decide you want to sell that house. And what is it that there is that money you get, you want to buy something else. So this desire, this mentality, this is what we call our worldly life is like this. This is a vyavaharik world we are used to. Now what happens is when people come with this attitude to Vedas, we continue with this attitude. The only difference here is I'm doing these rituals and giving something, but there is something else that I've been promised, something else I've been, hopeful of. And this one good thing here is there is some faith in some deeper life, higher life. So this is a good faith compared to worldly faith, but it is not yet a freedom from the transactional mind. We are still caught up in this transactional thing, just like how, like we may go to a temple. Most people in the initial stage of our spiritual thing, why do we go to a temple? Because we feel like we pray to God and he or she will do something. We go to a guru or whatever saint also. People say sometimes go to the darshan of a saint. Maybe like, many people came to see Christ, right? Why? Because he would heal them. Not out of love for him, not out of love for God. So similarly, many people have material benefits. May I get some business, or may I pass my exam? In India, favorite kind of gift to ask from God. Go to a temple, you do some little thing, and the God will pass you from exam in the exam. So these are like the very transactional thing. So similarly with Vedas, when they follow the rituals of Vedas, you do something and you get the direct merit. But yet again, as I mentioned, I want to qualify it. For people who are stuck in a completely worldly thing, this is a better thing. But yet it is not going to free you from that mindset, which will still keep you in that sense of desiring. And every desire will ultimately bring you some sorrow. This is a deeper understanding of life. But anyway, that we will come to later. So now the first point it's set up is like this. But here is what is happening is that he has a son, a kind of a son who is a Kumara. Kumara is like somebody who you can say in the age group of about 8 to 10 or 11. So maybe what we call as pre-adolescence. Somebody who is in that state, that age group of 8 to 10, kind of some age group like that. Now, this is that son that he has. Now, what is happening is that in the hymn, there is one thing that happens. Tamha kumaram santam dakshinasu niyamanasu shraddha vivesha so manyata. So seeing this happening, what is he seeing? He sees that his father is giving away things to priests and all these Brahmins and any people come. There is a Shraddha that awakens in him. Now this word Shraddha, it is like there's a whole lot of commentaries on this. What does it mean by this Shraddha here? See, Shraddha is at many levels, but we, unfortunately, in English, we translate it as faith. And that is such a limited translation of that word. But still, that is the best we have. So faith, when we say we take faith in God or faith in things, and you hear people say that, I used to go to the temple, church or whatever. Now I don't go, I've lost faith, So that kind of Shraddha is not Shraddha at all. That is not the right Shraddha. So now what he's saying is that Shraddha has awakened in him. Shraddha awakens in this person. So this Shraddha awakens in him. So what is this Shraddha? Of course, we will discuss this later. But one of the main things about that is, we are used to believing in things that we can see through our senses, like what we call as pratyaksha. As I say, seeing is believing. Somebody tells me that, there is a mountain there. I see with my eyes, I believe. So this is a natural, I have faith that once I see through my eyes, this is the reality. Or I use my certain deduction, some information I have from the past, and then I gather it, and then I deduce something. Like, one of the things I commonly say, you sleep overnight, and then you wake up and you see that the road is wet all around, So you deduce that it must have rained, because you have seen in the past that when the rain came, the road got wet. So these are our intellectual deduction. But now we are talking about something deeper, beyond death. What exists beyond that? What goes beyond that? What outlasts this body and mind? So there my senses cannot tell me that information, nor can I deduce intellectually. So this kind of, if this deduction was there, then, each one could have come up with this. And that famous quote of Hamlet, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, right? Nobody has come back from death, he says. So how can I believe death? How can I believe that something exists after death? So here is where we have to take some source of faith. What is this source of faith? Each one does take some source of faith. And this is the reality. Even an atheist will take some source of faith. Their own deductive intellect has a source of faith. What I see, what I gather from my intellect is their source of faith. So similarly here, that Shraddha awakens in him in this teachings of Upanishads or Vedas. He realizes that all these teachings, everything, one way is that, the other way is that Shraddha here is also that young boy, what we call at that young boy, how can you have all that wisdom? This question can come, That wisdom can come in that young boy only if there is some deeper knowledge from some previous life or something else, which we say from our point. But in order, if we take it like that thing where no traveler returns, then there is no previous life, we don't know. But in India, we say like the problem is that we keep returning again and again and again. So that is the problem from the Indian context. What we talk about reincarnation, how to stop this returning. The problem is not that nobody has come back from that, as Hamlet says. The problem here is that we keep returning, and how to end this returning. So this pursuit, this kind of source is where our understanding, wisdom and knowledge can build from. So now from this point, what happens is Nachiketa sees one big defect in this yajna that his father is doing. What is his defect is that many of these cows, one of the things that he's offering is cows. Like he's offering material, maybe wealth also, but also cow is a very important thing that is given because it gives milk, and in India we worship the cows because everything of the cow, is considered auspicious. So, and it has some way where people use it. So now what is happening with these cows is they're all itodaka jagdatruna dugdadoha nirindriyaha. They have drunk their last water or whatever, meaning they don't even have that energy to drink anymore. They have given their last milk. nirindriya, there's become almost their senses are going out, meaning they're at the crux of death. He's giving those cows away. So this is one of the famous kind of, I mean, a very literal thing, when we give something, this is a rule of giving. That thing should have some utility purpose to that person. So at least that. Ideally, we should give something new, meaning it is not something we are giving, especially if you are giving to like Mahatmas, saints, and priests and all that. It should be something that is not like you are getting rid of, that you don't want it, so I give it away. But it's also okay. Like many times, people these days are hoarding things. So then it's fine. You give it away, things that you don't want. But the gift, a real gift, is something that person has a use for it, and it is not something you don't want to use it, so you're giving it away. That is a real gift. That is a real giving. That what we call as dana is that. So here he sees the defect. His father is not giving things that is of use. He's getting rid of things that he doesn't want. And also he's just pretending to be giving. It is not a real giving. So that defect he sees in that father. Now what happens? He connects that to the Vedas. What do the Vedas say? If somebody gives to that, he will go to a world where he will not get that joy. Meaning what he's doing, he will not get that. It will just be a waste. In fact, this is what happens. Many times, many people, like when you come to learn the Shastras, when you come live with the teacher or in an ashram or serve a guru and all that. See, there is a certain things that you have to learn. What is the right way? What is the right things to do? Because what happens is now you have already come to this step. If you hadn't come to this step, then ignorance is okay. But if you come to this step, then that doing also, there can be dosha in that. And this is where, from a Vedic point, the priests were always threatening people. You do this, this thing will happen, and you will always have bad merit. So that is sometimes where, it is better not to do than to do a wrong thing. So this is where, that information and the doing should be right. And you should not hesitate to ask the right people, the right process to do the right thing. So even, see, many times, like when people come to me as sannyasi and all that, I don't guide them in many of these rituals and all that, because a sannyasi has given up all this. This Agni he has given up. That is why I wear this color also. So we are not the ones to guide them. So I very clearly tell the people that you have to go to that right source and get that right thing. For those kind of things, if you want, like, blessings in your marriage or blessings in certain things, they want to do some ritual, then you go for all that. Anyway, so that is the point here. He is now come to that point where he sees that defect in that. So now what happens? He's a young boy. His father is almost like his guru. So at that age, father is a guru, right? They are the ones who teach you. He sees his father is doing that, and so he cannot directly tell his father, you're doing a wrong thing. So he kind of, in a more subtler way, he thinks that I am also a property of my father. Right? I mean, this is the Indian thing, right? Like where children, wives, are all considered as properties of that father or husband and all that. So they have a right over them. And of course, in a Vedic way, if you understand, there is a value to it. But from a worldly way, of course, people don't have that understanding. They cannot claim that I have a right over my son and wife and all that. But if the person is a Vedic person, following all the things, then he does have a right, because there is a lot of things, like, the things that a husband does, a lot of merits go to the wife. So there's a lot of things when we understand with the full perspective, we'll be able to appreciate that. And so this is where, many people follow that, even like we see, the famous story of Mahabharata, where that Yudhishthira, in that game of dice, he gave away his brothers, his wife, all of them who were his property, so called, And none of them kind of complained to him. None of them kind of, in today, they would have sued him or, that like in today's world. But they understood the Vedic thing. They understood that they are the property. So they didn't complain. So this, from this perspective, he goes to his father and points out something. You are giving away everything. Then he says that, whom will you give me to? So this is a kasmai mam dasyasi iti. Whom will you give me to? He will ask that. So his father is like, never thought about that, like giving away his son also. It's like, he says, okay, young kid, he doesn't know what he's talking, he just ignores. Second time, he repeats that. Third time, and this time he gets irritated. And out of that irritation, he just kind of, like if somebody is irritating you, you say, go to hell or something like that, right? So similarly, his father kind of in a way says, Mrithyuvetva dadami. Mrithyuvetva dadami. I will give you to death. So this is like, I just say, he out of anger, he kind of blasts him like that. So the moment his father tells him that, now see, if any other normal kid or if a normal adult also, they would have actually thought, oh, my father is angry or I irritated him, But Nachiketa is not like that, and Nachiketa is he very clearly, he introspects on this. He says, what kind of student am I? So there are three kinds of students, generally. The first student is one who, without the teacher saying, or at the point what the teacher says, he's willing to do it. There is one kind of student. Second kind is, he has to be specifically, clearly told, this is what you need to do, and they will do it. It's a second kind of student. And the lowest kind of student is like, even after mentioning couple of times, they somehow hesitatingly do it. Because there's fourth kind of students who will argue with you or who will forget what you have said and all that. So that Vedas don't even consider all that. They just consider the traditional 3 times. So he introspects and said, I'm generally the first kind of student. I understand what my father or my guru needs and I do it. At the most, I'm second kind. I need to be given instructions and I will do it. But I'm not the third kind. So then, why is it my father could have said that? So he comes to the deduction that maybe there is some higher purpose that God of Lord of Death has through me. See, this is how a person who has Shraddha is able to process the things. See, a person who doesn't have Shraddha, for him everything is outward. People are doing this for me, this is happening to me. That is because, number one, we don't believe in law of karma, that some things could have happened, I might have done, might have brought on this. We don't believe that. Secondly, we don't even think that, that I could have caused something. We generally attribute that people by themselves are out of their mind. They don't know what they're doing. So this is a normal way that most people in the world interact. And that is why we have wars and all these inharmonies, right? Because we are always looking at, oh, why you're saying that? Why are you doing that? So this kind of thing will never give us harmony. My life situation, I am the co-creator. This is the first thing. The second thing is, life is pulling me to a higher purpose. Even in the most difficult circumstances, there is a divine force that is pulling me upward. So this is a man of Shraddha thinking like that. Even in circumstances which seemingly are difficult, could be bad health or loss of everything, or something terrible happening, they look for this, that what do I have to learn? What is that next step for me? What is my next unfoldment in this life? So here he comes to that same thing, that maybe the Lord of Death has something to accomplish through me. Because then he kind of makes up his mind that I will go and talk to death. So now here it gets very, these are all allegorical, meaning there is deeper symbolisms how this happened. And here we can also kind of come up with questions. Now he's in the earth and Lord of Death is in other place, another world according to Vedas. How can we go there? So these are logically, we will not be able to figure these things out. And Vedic also, there are other things. Why is the Lord of Death, who has the highest knowledge, going to give instructions? So Vedic level, we might wonder what karma he has. So all this, is again, we're missing the point. See, like similar, if you're watching a beautiful movie, and in that movie, the hero, maybe James Bond or somebody, jumps out of that flight. And if you start figuring out how can he jump out of the flight, how can he do all that, then that critical mind will not allow you to get that real essence of that movie, the joy of the movie, right? Why are this hero, heroine singing and dancing? See, all this kind of thinking, right, at this point is missing the point. So, but of course, there is also ways it is explained how he goes to meet the Lord of Death. But many of the things, like, in these things are concealed. So then I'll just 10 more minutes. I'll just quickly wrap up the story. So what happens is he goes to that Lord of Death. He goes to meet to that house or that place. How he knows that and all that is irrelevant here. And he goes to that point. Now he's a young Brahmin boy, and he comes to this house of the Lord of Death. And he's very clear why he is there. What is his purpose? He has to meet the Lord of Death because his father said, I'm giving you to the Lord of Death. So he has to meet him, and there's nothing else for him. A very clear-sighted vision. Now he goes there, the Lord of Death is out. He's gone on some errands or something, some job or somewhere. He's not there. So what does he do? He doesn't even take any food. He just sits there and waits. So people there are alarmed because in the traditional thing, an atithi, a guest who has come. Atithi, one who doesn't have tithi, he doesn't have to inform. He doesn't have to inform when he is, but he has come to your place. Has to be served well, and especially if it is a Brahmin boy like that. I mean, that is again, those who follow the traditions, they understand that. So there he doesn't eat anything, he doesn't drink, he just sits and waits for the Lord of Death. So everybody is afraid, and then when Lord of Death finally comes, it tells him that he has waited 3 days for you without taking any food, anything. And Lord of Death is also ashamed that some person who has come to meet me, he's not used to that, right? He's used to going and getting people. So somebody here has come in that without leaving the body, or in that without, whose time has not come. They have come to see him. So he's not used to getting guests. So either out of that, or he's surprised at that tenacity of this young boy, and he says, I will give you 3 boons because you have endeavored to meet me. 3 boons, meaning you wish whatever you want, and I, within my ability, I'll kind of give it to you, kind of thing. This is a traditional way how all the gods are empowered to give us some boons. So this is also, like why we also pray to different gods, especially when we come to understanding. We pray for the highest boon, that may my spiritual path be opened up. May all those obstructions be taken off. So similarly, he is given 3 boons. So the first boon, very clearly, Nachiketa realizes that I have come here because of my father. And my father, he also understands, will not be happy because his son has gone, and that, see, as everybody, many people who are short-tempered, you understand this, right? Like you say something and then you regret. Oh, why did I say that? Or why I didn't mean that, So he realizes his father must have been going through that. But yet he is that, we call it like, this is where, also, and from another perspective, this is a thing of Mahavrata. Once that word is given, that word is given. It is not like, what is that, as we say, the letter of the word law, or we should follow the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. No, these people have that so much faith in that higher evolution of life that they are willing to go by that. We know this famous story of Lord Rama, right? Where his mother asked his father to banish him 14 years into the jungle. Then immediately, soon after that, she regretted. So she said, please come back. I'm sorry, this was not meant to happen. But this Lord Rama is that follower of Dharma. Every word as it is. I follow it to the T. It doesn't matter that you said it by mistake or so whatever. So that is that one who has a complete Shraddha, right? Who follows the path to that letter. And he says, I have to go through. It's not like, now, okay, everything is resolved and so everything is forgotten. No, this is where they see the higher purpose. So like that, he also realizes, and he has come there. But his father has that understanding. So he says, like, may my father's anger and disappointment be gone. And then when I go back, meaning also that you will allow me to go back. When I go back, then he will be able to recognize me, meaning he will not see, there's some ghost which has come and all right. So this is Nachiketa, my son, he has returned back. So that is the first boon he has. The second boon that he has is that there is people want to know how to get to heaven. See, this is a real high selling spirituality, right? Everybody wants to get to that heaven aspect of life. So this is where, many spiritual paths are leading us to. And until we come to Upanishads and all that, we don't realize it. But the many aspect, the allure of spirituality is this Swarga Loka has. And so there he says, what is the ritual? His father also was engaged in something like that. What is the ritual to get to that? Second boon. Now the third boon, time of third boon comes. And then here comes the main teachings. That teachings begin when he asks his third boon. Yeyam prete vichiketsa manushye astityeke nayam asti chaike. There is this conflict or doubt in human world or among people that something exists after death and something doesn't exist. So this is what most of us can also relate to, right? Like we all say, like, is there life after death? If there's no life after death, then I can do whatever I want. I can kill, I can do whatever, I can live a bad life. Nobody is going to account me. So there's one way. But he has already asked the question about how to go to Swargaloka. So the point that this Upanishads brings up is he really asking what happens after death? Because we know already that Upanishad, that yajna and all is done for afterlife. So that is not the question really. The question is something more deeper. The question is that is there something beyond not just this body, not just this mind, not just even this entity, what we call a soul. Is there anything beyond that? Ayam prete, which asti tyeke nayam asti. Is there anything asti? Is there existence? Is there something that goes even beyond that? Beyond the sense of ego or something. So that is where the main Upanishad starts to unpack. And this is what we will study. And so for today, we will mostly keep it at that. There are a few more points which are, again, as I mentioned, metaphorical here, which, like, why is it that at the age of 8 or 9, like a young boy can ask these kind of questions? What does Nachiketa represent? So in one way, like Nachiketa is that youthful aspirant in us. See, when we all come to the spiritual path, there is that that enthusiasm, that willingness, that wanting to learn, wanting to know. But sometimes over time, we lose that. So that energy, that enthusiasm of a youthful thing is what a sadhaka has to always sustain. That quest for this truth, as I put it on one of the videos recently. The moment that slows down in us, then we go back to worldliness. We somehow are happy with maybe a higher level of worldliness, but the quest has gone back. So that is that symbolism. Another symbolism, as I mentioned, is that before that pre-adolescence, that lustful energy has not come in him. So see, the people who are wise at that age, they, like Shankaracharya, took sannyas at the age of 8. He gave up all pleasures at that age only, because he realized that none of those pleasures are the path for attaining that true reality, the ultimate reality. So that is the symbolism of Nachiketa, that young seeker, that boy. And death is the guru here, Lord of death. See, death is where, like we have to give up the old to learn anything new. So in everything there is this symbolic death. And here the death is what? The death is the death of ego. Only when the ego dies, that true reality will be discovered. So every spiritual quest is that. It is the death of that ego. So the best teacher is that teacher of death here. When we are ready, when the ego is ready to die, then God or the divine consciousness awakens in us. We call it the second birth or second coming or whatever. So these are very symbolic things which we will cover. And now I will close today's our pravachan talk. And there are a couple of points for those who will be attending regularly, or those who also are interested in a few extra classes. So I want to make a couple of announcements. Those of you can stay back. The rest of you, if you have to leave, you can leave after my closing prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevava Shishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.